Right. Today we are taking you through step by step as to how to build your own training program to make sure you've got winning workouts that are going to help you go to where you want to go with your own training, succeed, and then also feel like they're fun in the process too. Because we want to have this balance when you are training. It's this balance of programming that's going to help you get to the result that you're after. But two, alongside that, is you have to be emotionally bought into it. So Nath, we're here to get detailed, get tactical, bit of coach on coach talk here, and let's dive into the world of strength conditioning.
Let's do it.
All right, so let's start off with first, where do most people fail with programs?
Most people, they don't have one.
Good start.
That would be the biggest one I see. They go in blind, they make it up on the spot, they rely on effort, and then they wonder why there's no compounding result.
Same weights every week. They've been benching 60 kilos for the same 3x10 for the last 10
or they
years
try
or
more
so.
weight and they can't do it and they wonder why.
Yeah. I think there's so much in that there. The trying to bite off more than they can chew, I think is often another one, like where they'll plan out this 6-day program, but they've only got 4 days a week they can train because they've got their son's soccer practice on the other day or so and they can't get there. So trying to take on something that's just never going to happen, you're better off condensing it into the days that you can do. Coming up with logistically what works for you. What else do we see?
I don't even want to call it a program. Let's do air quotes. Programs that aren't actual programs, where it's like something's written and let's call it exercise. They're exercise, they're called programs, they're not training. So they don't have like an actual... they're not facilitating a purposeful result that's moving towards somewhere. So generally this would be based off effort or calories burned, where it's like, okay, I'm going to go in this and I burnt this many calories, which is wrong anyway. But it makes someone feel good. And I understand for some people that is what they want. They just want to go in and feel like they've worked hard. But I think that's limited. And the whole of Newstrength has been based off progressive improvements over time, and a lot of our members have come from other training modalities that don't actually go anywhere, and they're just based off effort on the day. But we want to see compounding results over time. So I don't even know if you'd call that programming, Jacob, but it would be
what was the old thing? There was
a feel good, effort based calorie burn is the success. It's not a program though. That's a I don't know what is that?
I remember seeing this old thing. It was back in like the CrossFit OG days, where like it was like bingo, where they literally spin the thing around, the number comes out.
Yeah.
And it was like they were choosing the workout based on one of them had exercises and one of them had numbers.
Yeah.
And I was like, 35, and on the other one it's like thrusters. Okay, cool. Next one up. What are we doing next? And it's just literally just random shit.
Yeah, it's just it's like you know how we talk about the nutrition pyramid or the hierarchy. It's like that, but it's the same thing, but it's just flipped. It's like novelty can be in there 100%. Engagement, fun, like it all can be there. But what happens in these? I don't want to say program. I don't know why. It's flipped, and the novelty and the variation and the things that are generally at this top of the pyramid, where they're the least important most of the time, they're at the base, and it just doesn't create a long-term result.
Yeah.
Generally, there's a lot of talk of that M word in there too, like motivation and all those things where it's feel good, but I don't know.
And you know what's the most motivating thing?
Getting good results.
It's really, really easy to stay the course. I know.
See why we've been seamless for 10 years, Jacob.
We talk about often the example that I give in this case is like Bev, that's worked with us for a long time now, and she has gone through some absolutely horrible programs. Not horrible in terms of effectiveness, like of the program itself.
Experience.
Horrible in terms of some of the sessions were the hardest things that I've ever seen on paper. I wrote half of them, but she still would turn up no matter what because she had a goal where she wanted to get to, and she knew it was getting her there. So she would just suffer and suffer and suffer. You'd often walk out multiple times in a training session. She's laying on the ground with her soul taken out of her body. And then she gets back up and she goes again because she was getting results. It's simple. It's not easy. Yeah. It's really, really damn hard. But that's the big tangible thing that actually makes change happen and makes the motivation there because it's working.
Yeah. And for some people, I think for people listening today, sometimes the result is just the fun. for some people. And that's fine. Like, as long as you're doing some kind of structure in there, I would like to say just something. But for most people, I think for most of our listeners, they want their training to lead to something. They want to look back in 2 years and say, I was here and then I was there. It's not, I've burned 200,000 calories over the last 2 years in my sessions because I tried so hard. Minus 50% because your watch is wrong, so it's probably less than that anyway. But we need to actually have something.
At least 50%.
To show, yeah, probably more. We need to actually have something. So function, strength, bone density, fat loss for some people, autonomy, movement. Like there's things that we can actually develop that are really
experiences.
valuable.
And often,
exactly.
like I know there's clients that we have that are like, I want to go and do this, climb this mountain and so on, or go on this trek along through Alpine Victoria and they're training because they want to be able to do that and they know that where they are right now won't get them there.
Yeah.
And that's going to hold them back from having the experiences they want in their life. So, like, I guess that's really the first piece of what is the training playbook. It's like, what's the outcome? Like, where are we going here and why do we want to do that? Like, what's the reason for that?
Training programming pyramid, Jacob. Is the base the why?
Yeah, the base is the why and where. Like,
yeah, because that determines specificity, and then specificity determines programming. For anyone that's in the know, a good program is determined by the outcome that you desire from it. Yeah. Like me doing a swimming program is not going to make me snatch more weight, is it?
I mean, like you go to the enhanced games with James Madison, probably anything's possible. But so that's our first piece. Our first piece is dialing in on just making sure like we know what the actual goal is. We know what the outcome is that we're trying to get towards. And I feel like the second piece needs to come to being, where's the person's life actually at? Like what's the constraints of it? Where are they as a human right now in terms of what's their training experience? What's their background? What have they done before? What are they actually capable of? And then also what's their life outside of that actually allow for them to do?
100%. That's going to determine that adherence bracket, right?
Yeah. And part of that, like who they are as well, is like, how much do they sit on the layer between like how much emotional buy-in do they need into a session? Like what is going to actually get that emotional buy-in for them versus how much of it's just driven by the fact that they trust that if they do the work and they follow this process, they're going to get there. And there is both sides of that there in a lot of people. And you do see, I think the fitness industry is actually shaped around the variation in that there too. If you look at the people that turn up to gyms, there is the ones who will follow this super strict to a T program, and often they're drawn towards the workouts or the formats that is where it is really measurable. It is really like defined on what the variable they need to hit on that day. Whether it's like in endurance running, it's like be at this heart rate for this long for these amount of things, do it on the track or do it over on the hills or so on, or in the strength conditioning side, like it might be powerlifting because powerlifting is the same exact thing every time. And yes, it's in the strength focus as opposed to the endurance world, but it's the same bar, it's the same plates. They're on the same racks every time they set up. Like everything is dialed into a T there. So it's very measurable. So you know exactly if the training worked or not because did your squat, bench and dead go up? And then on the far side of that, like you've probably got on the other side, like CrossFit was completely varied every single time. Every comp that you go to is different within reason. Like a lot of it is still very similar, but then it's like you might have trained really, really hard, but because of the workouts that got thrown at you in the sport there, you could have sucked still. And it wasn't in your control because you don't actually have control of what that is or what comes up on the day. So those people that do like the variation there are probably drawn more towards that than they are drawn towards powerlifting there. And there is different training models within each sort of realm, but I do think people sort of draw themselves to the one that's going to get the most emotional buy-in for them there. Like I know I found like I liked strongman more than powerlifting because one, I think I was naturally better at it, but two, I also liked the fact that there was a little bit of difference in it there. I liked the fact that I was going to be still training the same fundamental movements, but this comp's going to be overhead for reps versus a max or so on. And that allowed for a little bit more emotional variation that helped me be excited about training more than when I was doing the powerlifting side of stuff. I was like, oh, we're squat benching and deading for the next 12 weeks with nothing changing again. So I think defining where that person is, who you are. Injuries are another really big one that we do need to make sure that we're planning out on those constraints. And how long have you got in your sessions? Are you training first thing in the morning? Are you training in the afternoons after work? Like these things are going to start to help prep what you need to do in the sessions there. So what's our next piece, Nate?
So we've got why, we have adherence, which is like variables, things at play from there. Then it would be actually looking at probably your timeline of said goal, and that'll dictate a lot of the programming. So if you have an event on X date, or if you're Joe Blow, dad of 3, that just wants to get fitter and stronger and feel better, like the timeline of the outcome is going to dictate a lot on there. And then that'll dictate the volume and the intensity and these variables like frequency and where we'll place that into that person's life and how you spread a program out. And that's why personally, like for busy people and parents or non-parents, that's why I'm so against the quote unquote bro split, where it's like chest one day, back one day, all that stuff. It's like we don't have... One, there's better ways to do it, but two, we don't have the whole week to be able to do all this stuff. So you're generally looking at full body sessions and push-pull and things like that. And that's because we only have so many days of the week we can have this program written for and get the result from. So I think the next thing from there, from like you said, Jake, is what is the timeline? And that will dictate these next things that come up, where it's like the movement selection, the specificity and all those things, because and jump in if you feel like I'm off, that'll determine how specific we need to be, how quickly for that individual and where all these other novelties come in.
And I think this is probably a piece where a lot of people miss the boat on because like if they don't have a close timeline, often some people, because they are gung-ho in this first phase, and we talk about the balance of the guardrails of like being gung-ho to start off with and going hard at it versus just tinkering your way in or dabbling and dipping your toes in, they're both can be the wrong move for somebody. There has to be that sweet spot in there. But often I do feel like when there's this, we're training for life, and we're not necessarily training for this set day that we have to be ready for. Some people miss that and they go too little too early, or they go too much too early, and they're trying to not navigate, or they're trying to navigate it in the way that they think is the right way, probably based off their experience in something else beforehand, but it might not necessarily be the best way. And for some people, it might be like, oh, well, I went really hard once and I hurt my back again, so I want to just dip my toes in, but then they never get enough momentum to get moving forward because they've started with 1 half-an-hour session a week. And then they don't get progress, so they don't move forward. On the other side, they go, I need to get back into it, and I'm going to hammer myself, and I'm going to go as hard as physically possible straight off the bat. I'm going to go max deadlifts, max squats, and running a marathon every weekend, or like a far extreme.
I'd like
and
to
then they
see
cook
that from you,
themselves.
Jake.
I think it would be a very slow marathon every weekend.
That's all right.
But there's the balance there is finding out like how much, like where they should start from. And that's a big piece, is like, where's the starting point? What's the right, most appropriate thing for you to do right now based off where you've just come from there? And then I think that's like, as you said, it dictates the specificity, it dictates the primary movements. Like I like looking at like indicator lifts, like what are the things that are showing us that we're moving towards the goal? And maybe they're not necessarily a lift as such, but if you're doing something like if you're a powerlifter, it's probably going to be squat, bench, and deadlift. If you're just the everyday person that wants to look better, feel better, like it might be a 2K row as one of them there, because you want to be fit too. It could be that I don't know anyone who would voluntarily make it a 10-minute air bike max. Maybe you.
That's one
you
person.
Would probably do that.
They are here. No, until someone beats me, I will not, in the gym that is, I'll not do doing that again anytime soon.
It could be like one of the boys that we used to work with, Craig, he rated where his triple broad jump was at. It was a jump, and that was a dictator for him of whether his training was going in the right direction, because he knew when his triple broad jump was really good, off the mark he was really quick, and then he was playing footy at the time, so he was damn fast on the footy field if his triple broad jump was up to scratch. So it was like knowing what that thing is that shows you that it's working. And
then I think it's important to add to that, Jake, in some people's season, sometimes it's frequency and it's not a movement, like frequency of sessions. So they've hit their 3 sessions a week for 3 months straight or something like that. And they just know that foundation and that habit is the key indicator of them having long-term progress as well. So if you're at the point where just getting to the gym's hard, I think you can look at it from that standpoint, because you might not have a movement in there. But if we're past that point and we're being consistent enough, then 100%, like a 2K row, 10-minute max on a bike will definitely teach you a lot about yourself.
You just don't. The reason why I don't like that is I just don't want to have to do it every 12 weeks or so to see where it's tracking.
That's
like
fair.
I'd much rather do a 2K row every 12 weeks than a 10-minute max air bike.
I think it's there's obviously big parts of physical capacity, but I think it's just how emotionally was going to say stable. It could be unstable on the day. But yes, no, 100% agree. That is the next tier.
Yeah, knowing what those things are. And then that really dictates what's going to happen. Like we look at weekly splits. Often we come back to full body workouts for a lot of people. I really like, if you've got 4 days, I like an upper lower split, or like it could still be full body, but it is still separating the full body. So you might go like
emphasis is different on the day. Yeah.
You might go like a squat dominant with upper body pulling, and then the next day you're doing more posterior chain dominant with upper body pressing. And we're separating. And obviously that comes with as well, there is managing fatigue in this. And I know we've done an episode just before on the fatigue side of stuff. We want to make sure when we are doing that, like you don't go heavy as hell on the squats on the first day, and then you go straight in on the second day straight after and go heavy as hell on the deadlifts again there, day off, and then follow it again. Typically when you're looking at those there, it's like you're managing fatigue there. We're managing, and we call it in strength and conditioning as like consolidation of stresses. It's like, all right, where are we bundling the stress, the high stress days through the week? And typically you only want to have 2 to 2.5 high stress days in the week. So just because you're squatting and deadlifting on consecutive days doesn't mean that they're 2 high stress days on both of them there.
I was just about to, you beat me to it, Jake.
Yeah.
It's not movement based. It's going to be that it's your execution. And we spoke a little bit about this off air, but we'll get into that soon.
There's the balance on those there that's important. So I do think it comes back to there. Obviously, where's conditioning fit into that? I think this depends on what your goals are, what you're aiming to go towards, and then how many sessions a week you have. If you've got 3 days a week and your goals are general health and fitness, you're probably going to do, I'd say, a little bit on at least 2 of them. If not 3.
I think there's the adaptation side, but I think there's the mental, emotional side too. That conditioning offers you something in that return and that state change of the session that I didn't value enough when I was younger. It's like, it just makes me feel good.
Man, an arm pump really makes me feel good too.
You can do both.
Yeah.
If you come to Newstrength, you can experience that too. You can be fit, jacked, and happy. I definitely devalued or undervalued it for a long time. Now, like, I think how the structure runs could be a bias, but I think it's really good. Like, I can do strength work. I can have some, let's call it like accessory function work in there, and then have some tissue building capacity stuff. And I generally have some conditioning. It's good.
But we're getting there. Baby steps.
Yeah, I think I'd encourage people to have it in every session.
Yeah.
Whether it's a density or something like that. I would argue the point, like, if you're not doing it on one day, that's fine. But also if you're busy,
it doesn't mean you don't get to not work hard on that day. Like, it's not just cruise. It just means if you're not going to do that, you might be focused on a bit more hypertrophy-esque work on that day, but you're still going to do it in a way that gets your heart rate up. Like, I think if you're the person maybe only has 3 days a week to train, like, you have to get the best bang for your buck across all things in that time frame. I do think I still have this affinity, and it's my like old school, like where I come up learning from was like the Joe DeFranco West Side style sort of stuff, is I do really like that upper lower split with cardio on that day in between, which like it is pretty much what our group program looks like at the moment. Like, we've got lower Mondays, upper Tuesdays, cardio on Wednesday, lower upper, then cardio again on the Saturdays. And I just have I think I have a nostalgic affinity to it because it was where I fell in love with training, probably more so. But I don't think it necessarily is any more effective. It's just the one that I come back to that I enjoy. And I do think this is a balance there for people too. It's like, what hits the mark on that there? What do you enjoy in that? What do you like in the training sessions? And then that might be like where it is like, okay, cool, I'm going to do a bit more density focused strength work or assistance work on those days where I'm not doing strict cardio. And then I'm going to have a bit more stricter cardio day where I might not do a whole bunch of mixed modal stuff. I might just jump onto an erg and do intervals on the erg, or just go on the run and so on there. So let's go into volume intensity. Like, I think this is an important one to balance. Obviously, this does change depending on where you're actually going to with your program, like what the main goals of this phase is there. But we typically break our sessions up into three set pieces. So we've got our A series, that's our main lift for the day there typically. Then we'll roll our way into our assistance phase. It's normally, when we look at the framework here, it's the main lift is the thing that has the most influence on what that indicator that we're looking at. If you're looking for a specific lift or performance metric there. If you're looking at like we said before, is that the person whose indicator is they've had consistency in their training. It's probably not necessarily directly towards that there, but it's the thing that it's going to be the most bang for your buck piece of the session there. that secondary piece, the B series, is typically something that's going to build the body for the builders there. And then the third one, it's either going to be that cardiovascular, the engine piece there, or we're looking towards where it might be some isolated single joint accessory work that might be chase a good pump, feel good, move on out there. There's a bit of variation in how you do that, but if we break it up into there, how much emphasis are we giving in terms of like sets and intensity across those there? Main lifts wise,
It's
I know it's
terrible
so variable.
answer.
Yeah.
It depends. It depends on the timeline and
Take a stance.
what the quality is that you're trying to look for and what you're trying to determine. Like it doesn't. It matters that you have a plan, but that doesn't matter.
Yeah.
Like if it's 2 sets of 15 on a back squat and your goal is to build lower like limb capacity and hypertrophy, then that is going to be fine. And then you can move into some accessories. But it's
So I think rep targets are probably better overall in these here because the sets and stuff like that was going to be variable too. I do think
you
if you're looking in that range of like 10 to 25 reps total, I think it's a pretty good strength emphasis. If we're going in towards that hypertrophy-esque range, I think we're going to look towards that 25 to 50.
Yeah.
And then above that really gets in towards your like capacity and endurance-esque work there, which you might need to be willing to sell your soul if you're going to do like 75 reps of deadlifts in a session in those ways there. So, but that does typically come back to the length of the sets and reps there. Like it's really hard to go past an OG 5x5 when it comes to like that strength, that middle ground of strength and capacity.
100%. It's general preparedness. Like if we have just Jacob wants to get stronger across the main lifts. He doesn't care about them that much, but he wants to get stronger. Like his body can only do so much. It squats, it lunges, it pulls, it pushes, it twists, like it presses, if I didn't say that already. Like it's not that complex and you can do that through different ranges and angles. But anyway, he would have to have a certain amount of tissue quality and muscle to be strong. So if strength's the goal and he wants to move well, so I was like, where are we at in this phase? Do we use hypertrophy and less specificity to stimulate certain muscle groups? And that's going to be like a GPP phase. So it's general for preparedness, and then we move into like general strength. So in this phase, like a 3x8 is fine, a 4x8 is fine. We could go to a 5x5, it doesn't matter. It's the fact that there's some kind of plan and structure and phase potentiation. So I think with programming sometimes, and this probably is a good point to touch on, like it's contextual to the value is contextual to its place in there. So it's like, is a 3x8 or a 4x10 is like a question, what's better? It's like, it doesn't matter in that surface question. It's where it sits in this whole plan.
It's typically what preceded it, what comes after it as well.
100%, man. And then it's also like, what did it look like? Like I've seen 3 sets of 10 done very poorly, and I've seen 3 sets of 10 done very, very well and executed well, and it's not the same 3 sets of 10. And I know when we go through this, like execution will come up again, and it's something that I've lent into very hard in the last few years. But like with your programming and the reps and the structure and whatnot, like you're going to base it off like the Prilipin's chart. If you haven't seen that already, just look that up. It'll be somewhere around there. You could do more, but then you have to look at like, okay, if we're doing, let's say it's a 5x5, it's like we take a relative percentage for that period of time in the program. It's also how's it being executed? What does their range look like? All of those things from there. So I think when we get to that point, like if you just wanted to go, I want something simple I can use, back to what Jake said, like a 5x5 is great. So is a 4x8. So is a 3x10. So is a 4x6. So
just
is a 3x8.
Sevens. Sevens is off limits for some reason.
No, 753. 753, 531. Like it's just it's having a structure is more important than the actual rep range itself, I'd say.
Yeah, I think that's like just knowing to balance out the total, like the reason why you've got Prilipin's chart and things like that is like those things have sort of just been showcased over time to look at what is an appropriate dosage that you can handle an intensity for.
Yeah.
Like I think that if you can actually do 10 sets of 5 at like that 75 to 85%,
it's not 75
it's probably
to 85%.
Yeah, it's probably not 75 to 85%.
Clarence Kennedy.
Or the other thing is that the session probably took 3 hours.
Yeah.
And you're going to be toast for the next few days. Like, so if we're trying to fit it into a real training session, then it's probably not going to be easy for the everyday person to do so. It's probably not going to fit in. And that's where you do see sometimes these OG, like 80s Bulgarian weightlifting or Russian weightlifting programs, and you're like, that's a lot of work. And you try to get it done in a short period of time, and you're intensity just tanks.
Yeah.
And it's like, yeah, that's because they were in the gym for 3 hours.
Yeah.
That
three,
was
3 times a day.
Yeah, that was their job.
Yeah, that was one of their sessions.
Yeah, and then you can't replicate that when you've got an hour.
No.
So it's important to just to match those things up with where you are. The next thing, obviously, we touched on conditioning, is like making sure that we're intelligent about how we program it. Like I do think a lot of people try to make conditioning into fun, which I do see the value of. But maybe it's old grumpy Jacob getting around. It's like, I find so much value in just simplifying it now.
Yeah.
Like, I don't need to make a nice circuit. I'm just like, just give me the erg, and I'll sit on there and I'll do a minute on, minute off, 30 on, 30 off, whatever the thing is, and hit it at the intensity that I need to be at the pace that I need to be. Obviously, again, it comes back to where you sit in that scale. Like, I am the person that's like, if I know this is going to get me to where I want to do, and I want low decision fatigue on these things. Like, I make enough decisions about somebody else's program. I don't want to have to make decisions about my own. But if you do need that, like, just putting in something that's a range, when you do pick those circuits, it's really about just not putting a bottleneck inside of it that stops the intensity that you're trying to get. Like, we've ragged on dumbbell punches in the past, but it's like, if you're trying to build like fitness that's going to carry over somewhere. Like if you're training for a high rocks or so, dumbbell punches are not going to have you at an intensity that is going to carry over to the aerobic threshold or the anaerobic threshold that you need to develop for that there. So even though they feel hard, they're just not doing anything that's of value for where you're going. And obviously this is the thing, is you just want to match up the thing that you're doing with where you're trying to go. That's the overarching thing of all of these things that we're looking at here. Is like, and that's why like not having a program doesn't get you very far.
I'll leave it there.
Yeah, that should have been a 3-minute episode.
It could have been just a short little clip. Good programming is something that's structured to get you where you want to go.
Progression, like that's our next step. Like having a plan in the progression there. Like what are some things that what are the variables that you'd look at to change on a weekly, monthly basis that are going to have us moving towards where we want to go? So what's some things that we might tinker with?
Depending on the person, specificity is we're going to get more specific to the outcome as we go. So say if we have someone, to make this easy to think about, they want to squat as much as humanly possible. Then at the peak of their program, that'll be the most specific portion. So we need to make sure we're allowing energy and resources to go to that outcome, so we're not spreading across it. So you'd be looking at managing volume, intensity, frequency, and specificity of exercise selection, essentially, and what we're doing in that period of time. That makes sense. So if we have Jacob that wants to squat as much as humanly possible, like we touched on before, at the base of his program or the start of his program, it might just be developing general qualities. Like if Jacob has bigger quads, bigger hamstrings, bigger glutes, adductors, and a stronger back.
Is there a reason why you said quads first?
There is. But you do a lot with what you got. So if he had bigger, like more musculature around the joints that are moving in the movement pattern at this specific point, he's probably going to be stronger if we can learn how to utilize that. And then have some kind of work capacity. So when he does get to his 5x5s and things like that, he can move through it and not fatigue out. So he has that. So volumes, let's call high relatively. Specificity is quite low. He's not doing any maximal squats, and that's his outcome he wants. And then intensity would be moderate. Like if you're a strength sport, it has to be heavy enough. So the intensity is still going to be there. Generally speaking, if we're in this linear progression, volume will slowly move down as intensity pushes up, and generally speaking, as intensity pushes up, specificity will come up too. So you'll see exercise selection change, get more specific to the squat outcome, and then as Jacob goes through this program and he has this, let's call it a day he's going to do it on, or he's got a powerlifting comp, the closer we get to that, the more specific we get to the squat and what he needs to do that, because we've built these general qualities. So you'll see volume come down, allow more room for fatigue from intensity, which is like kilograms on the bar in this case, and then specificity will peak there too. So Jacob can use as much intensity, which is again kilos on the bar, that's the goal, and specifically that movement pattern. And that is how you would do that.
Yeah, so essentially we're looking like we might add weight, we might add reps, add sets, and these are all pieces that shift in and out with each other as well, because you're not going to do all of them all at once.
No,
otherwise, you're generally in a recipe for disaster. Reducing the rest period might be one of those things if you are trying to improve capacity. Or then if we're looking at conditioning, it's going to be tinkering around with pace instead. Like when we talk intensity and the weight going up, it'd be the same as increasing the pace that you're running at in those things there.
Yeah.
The one thing that I
Pace
will
and distance.
add within this progression plan is knowing the interaction of the different movements together, I think is an important piece as well. So if you know that as we're building this squat and we're trying to get to the more specific on the squat there, I'm going to be putting a lot of stress through my midline. Then it's like, how can I peel back some of that through other movements that I might be in the early training phases when it's a bit more general, be putting more stress there, but I'm going to peel that back there. And one of the obvious ones there is like going from a bent over row to a chest supported row variation. We're getting a little bit tactical here, but it does make a difference when you are trying to peak those things to get the absolute most that you can out of them done. You don't want to be wasting energy on other pieces there that are like, or you're going to be wasting fatigue there. So we want to be managing those
Absolutely.
things. Last piece, and we're just going to wrap up on this, is like effort is the overarching thing that has to be there as well. We can do all these things that put together. I'm assuming quality if we've done all the other, like the movement quality obviously is.
Movement quality is what I'm getting at.
Yeah. But you need to actually, if this program is written out with percentages or RPEs or so, if you're not actually hitting those there on the day-to-day, like it's not going to go to the plan.
Yeah, absolutely.
If you have a perfect plan, but you turn up half of the days of the week, it's not going to work.
Yeah, 100%. And I talk to the 100%. I can't, like, I think from the result it's given me in the last, it's only 5 years of trying to manage fatigue, train early and all those things. There's 3 sets of 10 on the dumbbells with the 20 kilo dumbbells, and then there's 3 sets of 10 on the dumbbells with the 20 kilo dumbbells where you go through full range, you execute to the most capacity you can, and you're actively trying to create the stimulus you're in. I think that gets forgotten about, and it's something that I've noticed, and I thought it was just trash talk from bodybuilders. I'm talking about mind-muscle connection, but actually, like, depending on what phase of training you're in, is like try and make sure you're actually leaning your effort into that. So if you're in a base phase, like you said, and it's hypertrophy and capacity through the tissues, it's like make sure you're putting the stimulus through the tissue, and that's your focus. If we're going through a general strength phase, make sure your movement quality, you're moving quickly and you're stable. Then as we peak, make sure you're actually like, that's what you're trying to do. Like it's not so much about the muscular adaptation now, it's about how do I use this tissue I've built effectively. So I'm more focused on control, stability and speed, and that's where my effort lies. So I think sometimes even the little things, it's like you said, doesn't matter what it says on paper if you're not actually applying yourself. Try and think, what is the outcome? What am I trying to do? And then lean your effort into that.
Yeah, like I think like that's went the same as in our marathon prep, and like Claire was so big on like your running needs to be like, I don't care what the pace is, it needs to be at this level of effort. Like the heart rate needs to be down more. You need this, but I'm like, it still feels okay. And she's like, no, but this is the intensity I want you at.
Yeah.
It still feels okay because you're willing to suffer. But that's not where I want you at. And I was like, okay, cool. How do I get back to still being able to run at a reasonable pace that hits me feeling like I'm actually doing it, but then gets the outcome there? And it was like, all right, well, cool. Like having to run better, having to relax into it instead of lugging my like stiffness around in the running mattered to trying to change that there.
Yeah.
So I think that it carries across in all of the pieces there. And I think it's been a pretty short punt, or we've gone to 33 minutes now, so maybe not as short as we were intending on this one here. But I do think it's really valuable to wrap up as like, we can do all these things that we went through in this framework, but we also need to make sure that we're balancing it out with your effort and energy on the day.
Yeah, absolutely. Absolutely, Jacob. Absolutely.
All right. If you guys want a bit more of a deep dive on this, I have actually taken our staff through a full training on how we piece it together with some example frameworks and training plans on this here.
The nitty gritty.
Yeah, I like the details. I do love getting deep into the weeds on these things, and there's a couple of things that we've covered in this with the team. So if you guys want a copy of the guide that I provided for the team there, just shoot us a message with program as the message on Instagram at Newstrength HQ, and I'll flick you guys through a copy of that one. You can grab it there along with the example training programs that are inside of that too. So that's us to wrap it up on another episode of Newstrength Way, and we'll see you guys back here next week.
Bye.